What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk about something that kind of happened and came up during a social media beef, fight, back and forth, whatever you want to call it, between um, female rappers. One of them is Asian Doll, aka Asian Debrat, and JT from the City Girls, aka the City Rats. And then there were some other folks jumping in, like Young Miami, also part of the City Rats, and Asian Doll's sister too, I think, jumped in at one point or another. And also Megan the Stallion was, caught up in this too, and some people had a lot to say about that. But that's kind of like a whole nother video though. But what I want to talk about in this video more so is what happened during the argument between Asian Doll and JT. At one point in the argument, Asian Doll referred to JT as, well, she referred to her as ugly, but more so, she referred to her as, quote unquote, a monkey. And I kind of want to explore that. And I'll say that colorism, much like racism, can become internalized at one point or another, where the people who are the targets of racism and colorism tend to end up, not all the time, but sometimes end up internalizing, negative, anti-black, um, anti-dark skin sentiments. And it's not entirely the person's fault due to just the society that he or she may live in, but of course we do have to call it out and hold people responsible for the part that they play in it. So this is part of the reason why I'm doing this video. So again, Asian Doll and JT were having an argument on social media, and really, like, the argument came about because Asian Doll was initially featured on one of Megan Thee Stallion's songs, but then she switched it up and switched Asian Doll out for the City Girls. And Asian Doll, she wound up playing her rap on social media, her part on it, and that's probably where things kind of went south, because folks started to make comparisons, and then, I'm not really here to talk about that aspect of it, but more so like the colorism aspect. So Asian Doll called JT a monkey, and of course many people feel that black people calling darker skinned black people monkeys is considered colorist. And Asian Doll and JT are both darker skinned black women. I don't know if they identify themselves as specifically dark skinned black women. Based on some of the comments that I've heard from them, I don't think they really identify as like a dark skinned black woman. I think they may try to identify or just identify as a brown skinned black woman. Notice that, little hierarchy there. Notice that. But I'll say that they're darker skinned black women. And, it's even more alarming because Asian Doll has spoken out about colorism against dark skinned black women, but now here she is, like, helping to perpetuate it. And, this is a bit of a sidebar, but really Asian Doll's rap name, Asian Doll, is kind of like somewhat problematic in itself. Like, where did that come from? Yeah, what was the inspiration behind that name, Asian Doll? I don't think she's part Asian from what I heard. Because if she was, I'm pretty sure she would be throwing that out there at one point or another. Let's be real. Let's be real about that. You know, especially if she has internalized anti-colorist sentiments, she'll make sure to throw that out there to let folks know that she's not just she's not a regular darker skinned black girl. She's not a regular brown skinned black girl. She's an exotic. You know, she's part Asian. That ain't the case. She may have like some sort of like Asian looking eyes, for a lack of a better phrase, or something like that. But I just don't think that's the case. And again, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to be, mixed, to be considered of value. Of course not. But I think that is important to point out since we're having this conversation. Her name, Asian Doll, like, what was the inspiration behind that? And JT, she recently got called out for her colorist statements that she made. You see how kind of like karma kind of caught up with JT a little bit here? Because she made a comment a while ago that resurfaced when folks was, clocking her social media page on Twitter. She had said something to the effect of, she's saying like she likes milk chocolate, the Milky Way girls. So like the brown skin girls, the milk chocolate girls, not so much the dark chocolate girls, not, quote unquote, not too crispy. Right? She don't want the darker skinned black women to be too, quote unquote, well done. All right, not too dark for her. Not, she says crispy, but we know what she means. But yeah, notice how that karma sort of caught up to her. Her putting that out there, and she apologized for it. But the apology was sort of weak, in my opinion. And I did a video about that as well. Um, you know, just saying. And JT has also made some colorist comments about Haitian people too, right? Um, but I do notice this sort of pattern when it comes to darker skinned black women who perhaps may fall into the brown skin category or could pass for being a part of the brown skin category. Whereas like they will make sure to, you know, not all of them, but enough of them will make sure to throw out some colorist sentiments towards darker skinned black women for some reason. It can't just, leave it as is and just say, hey, I like, brown skin, and that's it. And again, when it comes to these women and their choice, when it comes to their men, are they putting their men in these categories too? I'm just wondering, you know. Like, is that and probably if they're colorists, they probably are. That's probably why they're making sure to differentiate themselves, because they're going by the colorist code set in the black community, of course, where it's like darker is masculine, lighter is feminine. So they're women, so they want to gravitate towards the lighter side because it's considered to be, quote unquote, more feminine in the community by colorists. Let me throw out that disclaimer. An Asian doll, she herself has expressed some similar sentiments that JT expressed when it comes to brown skinned girls versus dark skinned girls. She had a tweet that said the following: see, it's a difference between brown skin and dark skinned girls. Brown skinned girls pretty. Don't nobody want no African ASS dark skin B. All right. And that's what she says. So don't nobody want a dark skinned African B. So brown skin is okay. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, step back. All right. And it's like, where is this all coming from? Where is all this like colorism that these women are projecting? Where is it coming from? And notice how it kind of goes into them projecting it amongst themselves now, right? You don't see them really projecting it towards darker skinned black men, although darker skinned black men do project it towards them. That's probably part of the reason why they have these sentiments as quiet as it's kept. And I wanted to do this video because I think it is important to explore sort of like these situations. And I've explored internalized colorism amongst darker skinned black men, but I'm not sure if I really have done it amongst darker skinned black women. I may have spoken about it and touched on it, but maybe not really went into it as much as I should have. So both of these women know that you don't want to be too dark. You don't want to be too dark. That's probably why they style themselves the way that they do, at least partially. The way that they, like the color that they use for their makeup, their hair color as well, contouring probably. They're making sure to present themselves in a certain way. They're lightening themselves with their hair, their makeup, and honorable mention for contouring. It's not lightening them per se, since they're probably contouring their nose, but it is helping them to gravitate towards what is considered within the beauty standard, right? And a lot of these women, a bit of a sidebar, but a lot of these women um, are like low-key black male identified women. So because of that, they sort of internalize what black men view as beautiful. And because of that, they have these sentiments. And again, I won't put the blame all on black men, because I do think that JT and Asian Doll do have to take some personal responsibility for this as well. I don't think that they're going to. I don't really give them that much credit. I don't see them, jumping up and taking responsibility. Asian Doll, again, she has spoken about colorism, but she may be one of those people who, like, when it affects them, it's a problem. But when it doesn't affect them, then they don't care about it. Like when some people get affected by racism, it's a problem. Like, every time they advocating for racism, it's for their direct benefit. Or advocating against racism, I should say. It's for their direct benefit only. After they get what they want, they hop off the movement. And as well, recently I did a video about the comedian B. Simone, and when she came out very recently and said that the Tinas, have an upper hand against black women. They have the upper hand on black women. B. Simone, she said it in a joking way, and folks was a few coming through saying it was a joke. She got the running gag with her and the baby. See, it's just a joke. Y'all taking this too seriously. And it may have been a joke, because B. Simone is a comedian. But I think the joke probably hit too close to home for some people. And, some people are like, But during her rant, her joke or whatever, she did express, some sentiments about, you know, hair texture, skin tone, um, what's considered sexy. Basically, B. Simone identifying with what black men or colorist black men consider beautiful. So I just bring that up to say that this ultimately affects, it affects, black women across the board and just black people across the board. It may affect darker skinned black people more across the board, but I think it affects everybody across the board, one way or another, right? It doesn't affect everyone exactly the same way, but it does affect everyone. Because I feel like if B. Simone saw the baby with an attractive, darker skinned black woman, like, say, Amara La Negra, I don't think she would have been as quick to jump on social media and make that joke that she made. She could have. She could. But for some reason, I don't feel like she would be making that self-deprecating joke that she made. And also, um, Danny Lay, she posted that on her social media page. It is a joke and it's bigging her up. All right. I guess what else is she supposed to do? What do you expect her to do? But yeah, and B. Simone, she was doing all this because the baby, you know, aka the Muppet. I heard someone call. I was reading through a comment section. And I heard someone type that the baby looked like a Muppet. I might start calling him the Muppet now, because when I read that, I just had to laugh out loud about that. So B. Simone was going crazy that um, her imaginary boyfriend, the Muppet, was stepping out with someone lighter and brighter and with curlier hair texture than she has. You know. And again, that does sort of show, again, this whole like hierarchy that's at play. You see, you see the dynamic between brown skin and dark skin girls, and you also see the dynamic between light skinned black girls and non-black exoticals. You see that hierarchy at play, and really, this is coming from a black male identified mindset too. By the way, these black women are just so black male identified that they have internalized black men's color struck black men's you know dating preferences, you know phenotype preferences, etc. um, and also back to Asian doll for a moment. She somewhat recently, it was a little while ago though, but she expressed some sentiments, saying that if she were lighter skinned, her rap career would be in a better place. And really, I think just female rap in general, I think it's hard out here for all the female rappers in general. I think it has gotten better as of recent because there's more representation, and as well there's more brown skin black women representation. in rap as well as of recent. But yeah, Asian Doll did blame colorism as being the reason that her rap career has stalled. Even though the City Girls have come through and Megan Thee Stallion has come through, you know, Remy Ma could have came through, but for some reason or another, she dropped the ball. Um, but I won't say that it is not a factor, but I do think there's other factors at play. Um, but one question I want to pose to you before I end this video, and that is, is it okay for, say, Asian Doll or another like darker skinned black woman to call another darker skinned black woman or just even black person, male or female, a monkey? Since it's just, from one dark skinned person to another dark skinned person, kind of like, say, how black folks do with like the N word. Do you think, like taking that same concept and just applying it to this, like, would it be cool? Because, the N word has like, a very negative history behind it. But, folks still use it. you know, like black people ain't gonna stop using it anytime soon. You know, so you know, do you think that maybe it's just in this situation it could be a bit similar? Do you think that, man, that's a bit too far? What do you think about that? You know? And also, I'll be fair and I'll try to be, sympathetic and empathetic to Asian Doll and JT and say that, I'm pretty sure that they probably have experienced anti dark skin sentiments, colorist sentiments, throughout their lives at one point or another. And, so I think that we have to acknowledge that as well, if that is the case. And I'm going to assume that is the case for the time being, at least until I hear different. But JT has spoken out about sort of experiencing colorism. I don't know about it. Asian Doll. Well, I guess Asian Doll has too. Both of them have spoken out about it. Asian Doll spoke out about it, saying she experienced it from lighter skinned black women. JT spoke about experiencing it from darker skinned black men. So, yeah, like these women, are victims. And sometimes when these situations come up, we just want to go so hard on black women and not understand that black women too are victims of, not only like, the racism and anti-blackness, but also adding on another layer of that colorism within their own community. That has to be acknowledged. But I know that I just don't see that happening. I won't say that it will never happen, but I just don't see that happening anytime soon, because when it comes to these colorism conversations, folks get real uncomfortable with it. People start bringing up any and everything to deflect from the issue, and to me, that makes me think that you're guilty of something. Like, why are you trying to, deflect and derail the conversation about colorism and holding people accountable for it across the board? Because if this were like darker skinned black men, folks would find excuses for them. Like, oh, it's just a preference. Oh, well, he was raised by a colorist single mother. Oh, he was probably called monkeys, apes, gorillas when he was in middle school by some angry, dark-skinned black girl. It's not his fault. It's always, like, folks can always dig up an excuse for black men, especially darker-skinned black men. There's always an excuse folks can find to dig up. to excuse problematic behavior, to defend them, to sympathize and empathize with them. But when it comes to black women, especially darker skinned black women, folks seem to not be so quick to reach into their bag of excuses. Like folks, like, oh, I misplaced my bag of excuses somewhere. I can't find it anywhere. Oh, what's white supremacy? Oh, I, you know, what's anti-blackness? What's colorism? Folks get real stupid, get real dumb, get real simple, and that annoys me. And also, like, the battle cry is strong when the black man is in trouble. The battle cry is strong, you know. You know, just recently with that whole situation about those, Caucasian women in that group chat and saying that, basically expressing their sentiments about black men. Folks got in their feelings, and black women got in their feelings, and was like, no, you can't you can't talk about my black kind like that. I'm gonna get your information and, put you on blast and expose you. I'm gonna get you expelled. You better not be talking about my black kind like that, right? And also, I heard some black men saying like, oh, calling out the black women and having some issues with the black women who are saying like, they're going to stay out of it. It's not their fight. That's black men's fight. I saw that, some black men coming through having an attitude about that. And I'm like, well, what about the white women who you claim love you so much, or just the non-black women in general? Why aren't they jumping up to defend you? Notice who jumps up to defend these dudes when they are in trouble. And even if it is like one or two non-black women who do it, notice that the non-black women tend to get more hyped up for it. Like, oh, look at her, look at this. Yep, they love us. you know? While the black women been doing it since, you know, forever. And I think that's probably part of the problem, that it's just almost just expected, you know. So I think the black women may need to congregate amongst themselves and, plan like a day without black women and see how that goes, or maybe a week, and see how that goes. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. I don't want to go on for too long. So thank you for watching. Please feel free to comment about this situation and let me know what you think. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.